there, the Connected Summit that is currently being held in Diani for the last 3 days is currently underway, and the chief guest today, Moses Kuria, is currently addressing them. Let's first of all listen in.
On how we take forward our digital transformation. They will be there, but as part of the menu. And today, they are not on the table, they are on the menu, because you guys are chewing them.
Let's apologize for that technical hitch, but who was addressing the Connected Summit is a Trade, Investment and Industry CS Moses Kuria. Go back to Diani.
Within a 20-minute speech by the president were knocked off. Take, for example, I've seen the logo of AWS here, and all the other people who have been talking about the 30% ownership rule. And I'm happy our parliamentarians are here, because next week, our ICT ministry with my ministry are sending the proposals to Parliament to remove this regulation for the 30%. If you are Kamau and Wekesa company, and you formed your company hoping that you are going to be the local partner, the local shareholder for Google, too bad for you. It will not happen. It is not possible, because that is not where the world is headed. The world is headed into an area where we have got a liberal environment for investment. The issue of tax, withholding tax for and VAT for, and actually even excise duty for export of services, we are sending proposals to Parliament through the finance bill to get rid of that. So that if you are here in Nairobi or Mombasa, and you want to do business in Tanzania, right now what's happening is that when you get paid, we are taxing you because of exporting that service. So that's really coming to an end, and all this plus all the other bottlenecks that the president announced last week is so that you can be able to create a conducive environment that is going to continue attracting investment in this gold and oil that is our technology. And then it's on the issue of our infrastructure. The program that John and Eliud in the ministry are rolling out with ICTA of 100,000 kilometers of fiber is unprecedented. And you are in the industry, go to any country, probably South Korea or something like that. So it's going to place Kenya on the map, firmly on the map. But we are not going to depend on government financing to take off this huge connectivity project for two reasons. One, because it's not the right thing to do. This is one area where the private sector needs to take lead, and I'm going to ensure that we create a mechanism where the private sector can be able to undertake this project. Government's role should be regulatory, supervisory, enabling, and policy making. That is the role of government. The other reason is because we have no money. Yeah? Even if we wanted to, we don't have money, the kind of money to be able to take off this project. So I want to invite those of you who want to take part in this project. We have agreed that we are going to make money available on equity basis or debt basis, whether it is in manufacturing or fiber, whether it is in those people who are going to actually be doing the civil works. Once you go to John and John gives you the contract, John will send you to me, and I'll ensure that you have the money. You don't have to go and get frustrated by our banks. And you know what has been happening? I have talked to our partners, our development finance institutions, most of which are working with KBC to make this money available. And I want to challenge banks, the commercial banks. I want to work with all of you, and I will put you together so that we can be able to work together. But there's a conversation we have to change. Somebody, a bank goes out there and says, you know, I want to fund the tech startups in Kenya. I want to fund those people who are in the digital transformation, who are manufacturing fiber, who are doing the civil works. So give me money, I go and lend to them. So Mr. Velvet Hart of a development institution out there gives money at 1%, even 2%. Then the bank comes here and gives you that money at 18%. If it was money from, let's say, deposit mobilization of which they are paying, if it's expensive money, I can understand. But money that was given by DFIs and other partners, Mutindoa and you sell Gikomba and you sell the clothes, there's no difference. There's no difference between you and somebody who is getting ARVs to give to people who are dying and you come and sell it. Getting money cheaply and not giving that money at the terms for which those people who gave the money intended is criminal, is unethical, is morally wrong, it is indefensible. And that's a story I want to change by ensuring that government through our own DFI is in the middle of that conversation to ensure that money that is intended for you actually gets to you and actually helps us in our takeoff. So with those not very few words, let me take this opportunity to thank John and the team and to congratulate all of you and tell you that Kenya is actually on a takeoff. So you are either part of it ama ukae kando kando. Kama gari yako haisongi, odoa jam tusonge. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Waziri. I think really it was timely to have you today, because over and above the other issues that we have been discussing, you have really given us a new dimension of how we need to address the issue of technology going forward. We particularly welcome the idea to establish the Innovation Fund. It is indeed an area that we have been struggling, and you did very well, how our innovators are selling out their innovations to foreigners, so cheaply, when we should be getting value from them. We also appreciate your ideas around collaboration with KIPI, because again, that is an area that the technology space has been struggling with from an IP perspective. We think that we cannot talk about the digital economy without working with you as the CS for investments and trade, because while this area is heavy in investments, you have actually made it so simple and provided guidance in terms of how we can structure these investments. We thank you very much. I now want to invite Jeff to pick up the program from there.
Interesting. There's never a round of applause for the MC when he comes back on stage. Thank you so much for that, and of course a very insightful speech into that particular regard. And CS Kuria, you're absolutely correct. Kuna masonko wengi pana hapo nyuma, but CEO will give you my number. Unaweza cheza kama wewe kwa M-Pesa yangu. Do what you need to do. I'll leave it entirely up to you. But of course it touches on a raft of issues, even as CS, from talent to structure.
Live from Diani, that is a feed from Diani, and of course it is the Connected Summit that has been on since the 2nd to the 5th, and earlier on we've had the sentiments of trade, investment and industry. CS Moses Kuria talking about the ministry having proposals to eradicate some of the business barriers, and talking about over 30% in terms of taxes that shouldn't be collected for that, for the small scale industries, and they will be reviewing that to make the business environment a little bit conducive. Of course, I've talked about the government intends to scale up enterprises and also support some, talking about optic fiber being a game changer. We have our business editor, Brian Kimani, who has been keeping tabs with what has been happening there. We have a whole crew there, and they'll be giving us more in our subsequent programs and also in our subsequent bulletin. And away from that, social protection is a constitutional right for each and every Kenyan. And it is guaranteed in the 2010 Constitution, which gives you Kenyan economic and also cultural rights. Yesterday, the President William Ruto, during one of the summits, the Social Protection Summit, he talked about a number of issues which will go a long way into helping the most vulnerable in our society. And just a brief of what he said, he talked about that 28 billion shillings in cash transfer for the Inua Jamii program that has been scaled up, and also talking about 1.2 million beneficiaries will rise to 2.4 in that program. But a number of issues also emerge when you talk about social protection. And the most vulnerable, when we talk about the most vulnerable, we talk about the aged, the children, and people with disabilities. And mostly when we talk about children, in as much as they do rely on our parents, there are situations where some parents are not able to give them the social protection that they need and that they deserve. In studio, we have somebody who knows social protection well, because he has been there and has been trying to help here and there. He's not a new face. We're talking about Newton Ogada from God Will Provide, all the way from Homa Bay County. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it is.
How have you been?
It has been difficult. That's why I've never been back to Nairobi.
All right. Being difficult, yeah. I will start with the difficult itself. Yeah. Things are already tight already. Yes. And if you look at the last couple of days, even weeks, the cost of power has gone up. The cost of fuel in the last review also went up. The cost of basic commodities went up, which led even to Azimio bringing protest. And of course, the Nyanza region was one of the major participants in that. How have things been? How are you coping up? Because you do rely a lot on what you're able to collect, and yes, what others who have the same mentality as you are able also to provide.
Yes, let me say thank you once again for being here to discuss how life is outside there. Mm-hmm. I was just feeling a few days ago that Kenya should be closed. We need to shut down the country, mm-hmm, and restart it again, mm-hmm, because everything is not at the same way. Remember, last year when I was coming here, I was using around 10 or 8,000 for fuel. Mm-hmm. But now it's double the price. When I come here and go back, I spend like 16,000, mm-hmm, which means there's a very big gap, mm-hmm, on the fuel. Then at the same time, we are going through a situation where the electricity bills are now almost twice the price that we've been paying. Mm-hmm. Then if you go back, we had a drought which actually affect our economy so much, because the cost of food rise like 5-6 times. So in general, everything is like crazy. Mm-hmm. For the past few months, it is not the same. Mm-hmm. Remember, we were crying during COVID that, oh, life is expensive.
Yeah,
but I think if we can reverse those days now, those will be the best days ever, mm-hmm, if compared to what we're going through today. Yes. So life is not easy, mm-hmm, my brother. It is
and
not.
The last time I checked, you have over 400 kids who you're taking care of.
Yes.
And in terms of the schools and also their medical expenses, you already started a healthcare center,
yes,
in your establishment.
Yes.
And we are looking at, I remember yesterday the president talked about the National Hospital Insurance.
Yes, the NHIF.
Yes. And this is a complaint that I've had. I remember I have a friend who owns a healthcare system. Yes. And he's talking about they have 3 months of which the NHIF has not paid them. And health being one of the social protection. And we are talking about re-engineering social protection programs. Yes. I'm quite sure this is something that is also pulling down what you guys are trying to do in terms of health.
I think we missed the line. Mm-hmm. There's a place where we missed the rail. For example, if you want to talk about the NHIF, mm-hmm, people are paying a little bit amount for them to get treated when they are sick. And a number of people are coming to the hospitals to get treated. And they have, if you click into their system, you find that they have paid, which means getting treated is their right, mm-hmm, because they paid for it. And the NHIF is not paying back the hospitals in time, which make the hospitals go through hardship of managing the hospital. For example, we are running a facility and we have patients coming in and out. They are coming daily and people are sick. People are hungry and people are sick. There's no food at home and the health is not good. So at least they can reach to the hospitals, and for example, me, I help a big number to pay for their NHIF monthly contributions so that they can get quality and better health care whenever they are. But now we are sensing that in the future, other hospitals will refuse to use the NHIF because the hospital will get paid after they treat the patient, which means you must have the money to buy the medicine, to buy the reagents for the laboratory, to pay your staff, and to make sure all the patients are eating in the same hospital. And then your pay delayed for a month, 2 months. It is not making sense to those who are managing the facility. It makes the life to be so hard. Because getting medicine is not easy. If you go back even to the county government hospitals, there's no medicine because there's a delay of payment from the national government. So you will find some people are working in the county government. When they come to the hospital, you find they have not been paid for their insurances. And for them, they have been deducted, which means there was a delay of the salary. By the time the salary delays, that will cause all the delay for NSSF, NHIF, and other, and even pay. But again, the government put restriction that pay cannot pass a certain date. You must remit your payment. NHIF still have a date that you can, if you pass, you will be penalized. So which means you must find a way of dealing with it. But before you deal with it, you will find yourself, you are over, you passed the date, which means now you cannot get treated. If you are doing the pay, now you are late, you have not do your taxes, and again, there's no food at home.
And remember, I think it's yesterday or the day before yesterday, the chair of the health committee of the COG, who happens to be Tharaka Nithi Governor Muthomi Njoki, also lamented the same thing, talking about hospitals are in a financial crunch because the government is also delaying to provide the money that are required. In your case, how long have you stayed before being paid by NHIF, to put the record straight?
The last two, we stayed for 2 months. They paid something, I think we call them stipend. For example, you are aiming to get maybe 2 million and you're being paid 150,000. When you see the money, you don't even know how to start using the money because there's not even enough to buy the reagents for the laboratory. So in the real sense, we are in the time of danger when it comes to the management of the hospital. I hope they will do something soon. I hope. If they don't do it, I will struggle because I love my people, but many hospitals will reject and they will stop using the NHIF. Number two, the reason why I see all these things are happening, they increase the payment of the NHIF. While they did not increase the money which is going to circulate in the region. So you see many people will default on payment of the NHIF. Because if a woman who is having nothing was paying 300 shillings per month and you increase it to 500 shillings and she don't have stable income, which means she's going to default and she will die because of somehow malaria because she cannot get the medication. So we have realized close to 3 months in danger.
And there's also something that the head of state talked about yesterday in terms of the elderly. He's talked about that beginning June of this year, the Inua Jamii program, where the elderly get some sort of a stipend for their monthly use, will be paid earlier, even before civil servants like us are paid. This is something that if you hear the president talking about will be paid even before civil servants are paid, he acknowledges that indeed there have been a challenge in distributing the money, especially that needs to reach where it should be.
What I can say about our president is that he needs to slow down on talking. it's better you say what you understand that is going to happen tomorrow.
But let's wait for June. Maybe you're going to actualize that, because this is something that the elderly have mentioned time and again. You also have a home for them, and you also build houses for them.
Yes.
Things have already changed. Even looking at the Kenya shillings right now, it's quite under pressure. How are you managing? Because at the end of the day, I believe anytime that we have an issue somewhere, a lot of people just have to go look for help somewhere, and they know that they can get help from your home. You cannot send these people away.
Let me tell you, or tell the nation one thing that we are experiencing now. That's why I'm saying we need to slow down a little bit. A time reach even in your house, when things are tough, you don't talk. You first find a way of organizing your house, then when you talk or when you speak, your children will believe in you. I don't want to get into politics because I'm not one of them. But the promises that the current government has been giving to us, so we are seeing them as fake because they are not coming to their completion. For example, number one, the former government, the elderly were getting their money monthly. It is 6 months since we done with our elections. We are heading to the 7th month. What happened in between? That now we have to start strategizing and planning on how we can do it better in June. While November, December, before election, July, before election, they were getting their money. Let me tell the country that the people that we see talking about payment of the elderly, the widows, and the orphans, these people are suffering. These people don't have nothing to eat in their houses. 3 days ago, a woman came to my home. She was almost falling down because she has been sick in the house for like 1 month. She is a widow, she has 4 kids, and she has no food. She came and told me, Director, I am dying with anger and I am sick. So I was like, how can I go through this? This is a person who could be getting something from the government to sustain her and her children. So I took her to the hospital, admit her for like 4 days, 3 days. She's still in the hospital, I think. And then after that, we have to find a way on how we are going to give this woman something to eat. While the government is still promising that we will be giving them money from June. Today and June, that is 2 months. Do you think you are still going to get them alive? How many are going to die because of this anger and sickness? So we have to actualize what we have been saying to people. Talking is easy. I cannot just come here to speak for the people to see me speaking in a TV station. But we need to speak and do action. Action is better than even speaking. The state of the nation today is dangerous. I am at the ground, I am feeling it every day, I'm meeting with challenges every day. Remember, before January, we had a drought, and that drought goes up to almost April. The rain started like 2 weeks ago. And all the prices of food rise up. The person that you are promising to give money June is not working anywhere. Maybe him or the mother lost all the children. Nobody is there to give them. They reach a level that they cannot go and do some contract to get something to eat. So we need to actualize most of the things that are happening in this country. And my advice to the government is, there are many things that we can do rightly. We have Mama Mboga, we have those who are doing small business. You add fuel, you add electricity. Then you are still telling them that you want again to add taxes. What do you think this person is getting or is earning? You are telling us, the same government is telling the people of this country that now the NSSF
we are coming to you live from Connected Summit Kenya.
We must pay
right
extra.
Here in India,
NSSF, we understand, is a saving for you. When you get retired, you will get something back home. How will you save today more than what you are earning? What do you want to carry home? The school fee is there. Then the food prices are high. I think we need to have somebody who can advise the president rightly. That before we add tax, before we add electricity, before we add all these things, can we go back to the drawing board and ask where we got lost? Number one, if it's about the subsidy, can you please take back the subsidy for 6 months? Then you stabilize in the office and you see the income that you are collecting every day. Then from there you can remove it, knowing what you are collecting. But you know, there's the situation we are in because they removed the subsidy without knowing what we are getting as a country. Number three, I did not go to Maandamano because I was taking care of the widows and the orphans at home. I was finding what they can eat and how they can go to school. But I wish I could be in the same street with the people. Reason why I'm saying this, when the government reach a state where everybody is speaking in the camera on big amounts that they want to add, and in the evening there's nothing, and people are dying, it is not making sense.
And still, we are talking about things are not making sense because everything and the cost of everything is going up, and it's no exception because also actually managing a big home now requires even more resources. How have been the revenue streams coming in, at least to bridge the gap that is being left by the high cost of living?
My friend, I've been going through hell. To feed 400 children and to run the hospital and to help the widows, I've taken a lot of loans, which I don't even know how I'll pay them back. The reason I've been supporting this child is in Form 4, Form 3 in a different school, which is not mine. I will not stop supporting the child and I have to pay the school fee. If you don't pay that child will never be in school. A widow comes to you like the one that I mentioned her name just now. Nothing you can do. You have to stretch so hard. But I thank God I've been receiving some small finances from my supporters in the United States. You know, which is not now enough. Because, for example, if I was getting close to maybe 1 million per month or 800,000 per month, but the cost of living is 3 million per month, which means I have to make sure how to come and do something in between, which is not easy. So my concern is still not about my supporters and how it is difficult on my side or on other people. We need to sit down as a country. I'm not supporting the Maandamano thing because that may not bring food on the table.
And I'd also like to know from you, a lot of issues are surrounding the kids. And yesterday I spoke here to somebody who helps street families, and he said one of the key issues that they're facing is the identity cards. And you also have a lot of kids who from the streets and also homeless kids. So we'd like to know exactly how you're managing that, because that is also another big challenge of which it needs to be looked into, because if at all they are over 18, they would like to now be in control of their lives and also help to chip in. But before then, let's first of all go back to Diani, where my colleague Regina Manyara is, actually that's Karon Jenga. Good morning, Jenga. Yes, she's supposed to have an interview in regards to women in digital space with Immaculate Kasait.
Well, thank you for joining us, Ben. Well, thank you for joining us, Ben Troy, right here from Diani, Kwale County. It is day 3 of the Connected Kenya Summit, and the conversation has been tilted on digital economy, endless opportunities shaping the future, and it has also been talking about the data privacy, as well as how businesses can take advantage of the digital era or the digital innovations right here in the country to progress their businesses, to grow their businesses, and also how women can take advantage of technology to also have a space in the digital era. Now, joining me is Immaculate Kasait, who is the data commissioner at the Office of Data Protection Commissioner. Talk to us about women in the tech space, as well as how the office is participating in the Connected Kenya Summit. Thank you for joining us, Ms. Immaculate.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Okay. As we start off, I would like to know how your office is participating in this year's Connected Kenya Summit.
Thank you for that question. In this year Connected Summit, we are partners in terms of the issue of data protection. We are sponsoring this year's the Connect Summit, and 2, we have a booth where we are currently seated, and in the booth we are also, because of one of the innovations that we are displaying here is the AI chat box, where it will improve our customer experience, and we are testing it at this conference.
Okay.
Yes.
Maybe in a few words, tell us what your role is when it comes to the tech space, when it comes to data privacy.
When it comes to the tech space and data privacy, we all have to agree that a lot of tech space and data is the new oil. Data being the new oil, it means we share a lot of our personal information, that is our name, our addresses, our sensitive information such as health data, our families, and so on and so forth. The role of this office is to ensure that all those people or tech companies or data processors, data controllers, and in this case data controllers are the people collecting that information, are doing it in a structured manner in accordance to the law. So our work is to regulate that space, to make sure even as they collect that information, it is used for a specific purpose. The rights of the data subject, in this case the mwananchi, ama the hustler, ama wanjiko, the information is safe. That is not being misused, it's not being used for other purposes than what they agreed for. Because you agree in terms of collection of information, people tend to collect it and use it for other ways than what was agreed. For instance, in the recent past, you've seen people receiving, you go into a market, a supermarket, and thereafter you are then receiving information that you did not ask for. That is commercial use of data. That company should actually then inform you that they will ask if you would want to receive information that you're not whatever, that you have shared with them. Because in this era, it's about collecting information, analyzing the information, monetizing the information. This office is there to protect. Why? Because issues around identity theft, issues about being trolled on the internet, we've seen those are issues that can actually cause mental health, and most importantly can lead to discrimination. If some of this information that is collected on your behalf it's misused, somebody could fail to give you a job, or an insurance could increase their premium, and so on and so forth, because of information that was to your disadvantage. That is why we are here, to make sure that as we propel using techie, we also make sure that people's personal information is safe. Yes.
Are there penalties maybe for companies that share data with the third party?
Of course, there are penalties, not necessarily sharing with third parties. Those people who go against the regulation or go against some of the principles under the Data Protection Act, there are penalties. But as an office, we like to encourage, we like to encourage people in terms of compliance. That you're better off, because the issue, we could come and fine you, but at the end of the day, your reputation as a company, you're seen as a company that does not respect people's personal space, and you do not respect your customers. The trust you lose could cost you your business. And as you expand, people want to know that you're protecting the information. Of course, penalties are up to 1% or 5 million shillings in the event when we give you a chance, what we call enforcement notice, and we tell you if there's a complaint against you, you've investigated and it's your phone that you had not complied, we give you a chance to rectify in 30 days. In the event you don't rectify, then we go for what we call the penalty notice. Yes.
The theme for this Connected Summit has been digital economy, endless opportunities shaping the future. I would like to know, how does that resonate with the data commissioner?
100%, because even the Kenya Kwanza Manifesto and the leadership of His Excellency Dr. William Samoei Ruto, the 4 pillars. One is digital superhighway. If you're talking about digital superhighway, in the center, one of the pillars is about data security, cyber security. That is one of the core issues. 2, if you're speaking about universal health care, that's sensitive data. They collect a lot of personal information. They have to make sure it is safe. If you're talking about agriculture is about, even recently, about the subsidies, the fertilizer subsidies. The distribution of that meant that you have to collect information about farmers. We as an office are proud to have shared an advisory with the Ministry of Agriculture, because they're collecting personal information about farmers. They must make sure that it is safe. Even beyond that, even when you look at SMEs, the Hustlers Fund, they're using a digital platform to in terms of dispersing funds. That's personal information. So they have to the data, making sure the data protection impact assessment is done, making sure that the information they collect about their customer is safe. That is also about data protection. Essentially, because every day they're collecting information about individuals, they have to make sure it is secure.
The afternoon session yesterday was all about women in the tech space, and you're very vocal in terms of ensuring that women are participating in this space. I'd like to hear your views about whether women are accommodated when it comes to this space.
I would say we are not where we are, but I think there is tremendous progress. As an office, we have over 40% women, 45 actually, in terms of recruitment. We have to be deliberate. If tech is what is selling, if tech is Kenyan oil or gold, we have to be deliberate to make sure 50% of the population is in that space. Through mentorship, through making sure that we're giving women space, having affirmative action, having policies that allow women to work in the tech space, and they are able to also do what they should do in contributing towards this economy. I think from the conversation yesterday, you can see women, when they tell you stories back when they came into tech. I'm a lawyer myself, I'm a newbie in tech, but I have really embraced it because I think it's a space that gives women enormous opportunity. They can work here and even work from home and still run their families, and they still be mothers and still be able to achieve the best that their career can afford. I believe that there's a lot of opportunity for young girls to try this space of tech.
Okay. As we come to a close, I'd like to know what's the future outlook for the Office of Data Protection and Commission.
Well, even though we are a new office, 2 years, our projection is that we will roll out our offices to 13 regions, and in that case we will partner with different county governments in terms of making sure that we entrench data protection by default and by design in what they do in every single day. The same for data controllers and processors who are out there, and of course, because really a lot of work happens at the ground. If Mama Mboga in a market somewhere, an example given here is Fangano Island, or in Turkana or Lamu, understand the value of their personal data, they will then demand that it's held in a certain way. If data controllers in those areas understand the value of personal data, they will make sure that they build a brand that takes into account the interest of the customers, and they secure their rights at all times. So for us, it's going out to the region when it's in everybody's mouth that data protection is something we have to embrace. We will be moving towards our vision, which is basically to build trust when it comes to matters of data protection in this country.
And when do you think you're going to roll out this awareness program in all the counties?
It's a continuous process, partnership with civil society organizations. This year we target to do a minimum of 10 counties by June. And let me say it's a continuous. Yes.
Thank you so much, Immaculate Said. That has been the Data Commissioner at the Office of Data Protection Commissioner, talking to us about various topics that has been ongoing right here at the Connected Summit, Kenya. And earlier on, we did hear from the Cabinet Secretary for Trade, and he was categorically saying that there are areas that they need to be worked on when it comes to innovation, when it comes to the digital divide, when it comes to other areas that are key in driving the digital economy. We'll be bringing you later on a story at 9 p.m. as well as 1 o'clock p.m. My colleague O'Brien Kimani will be speaking to the Cabinet Secretary Moses Kuria, and we'll be giving you that live interview later on this broadcast. Back to you, Ben Troy.
Thank you, Irimo Njenga, live from Diani at the Connected Summit. They're engaging Immaculate Kasait, who is the Data Commissioner there, and talking about women seizing the digital space and, of course, empowering them to get the rightful space and also be able to forge their way forward and ultimately something to put in their pockets. We'll be having a conversation with the CS for Trade and Industry, Moses Kuria, a little bit later on. And of course, she has alluded to is that we'll be having a comprehensive report in our subsequent bulletins. But back to re-engineering social protection programs, and we have a philanthropist, Newton Ogada from God Will Provide. Earlier on, before we crossed over to Diani, we were talking about the number. I'm quite sure the number of kids now, because everyone is pressured by the economy and the state of affairs in the country. I'm quite sure you are receiving a lot more. And how are you endeavoring that and ensuring that they are also catered for, despite the fact that your pockets are also running dry? And how also are you helping them in the acquiring of identity cards, which will later help them in life?
Thank you. Yeah. Though we have not reached that level, all my students or my pupils have not reached the age of 18, being I'm only 12 years old in the system. But there's a way how I conducted recruitment of my children. What we did, we put pressure onto the relatives of our children. Number one, to provide the birth certificate for the children, which means now we'll never have any problem with giving the identity card when the time
but
reaches.
Unfortunately, there are some of you pick from the streets and they don't even have a birth certificate.
Yes, like 2 weeks ago, I got one who is around 3 years old. I've been trying to announce everywhere. We reported to the police station. We even called the local radio stations to announce, but nobody. I've never seen anybody coming for the child. And I'm suspecting this child maybe has a mother or a father within Oyugi's town. And being the life is really going worse, they decided to forget about the child. I have the child in my house now as we speak.
3 kids, 3 years. 3 years.
Yeah, 3 years. Yeah, it's a kid. It's like my baby, because it's like I have now 2 babies in the house. Yeah, and I'm taking care of him. So in the future, we have all the direction that we can follow. Number one, we reported these cases to the Ministry of Children, Social Services, so they know that I have certain children. So if we don't find anybody who could actually give us the clue about their background, where their parents were, then now I will be allowed to offer them with my identity to take the ID for them, because nothing I can do. I think the government will give me those children so I can take care of them as my own children.
The last time we talked, you were talking about the county government is not actually doing enough to help guys who are helping other people like you.
Yeah.
Has the situation changed?
It cannot change, because even the county government has no money. In fact, the county government are the same people who are sending us these children. Like, for example, if somebody sends you a child from the Ministry of Children Department and is within the county, the police always get these children in the street, but they send them to homes. You know, so they don't have, like the county government, the national government, I've never seen them anywhere within my region supporting what we are doing. What they're doing best is to ask us about the license, if we can pay 1, 2, 3 for the government. That's what they're asking us anyway, without knowing where we're getting this money. And I'm not talking on myself. I'm not talking on behalf of all the people who are taking care of the children, widows, women, and all those things. Until to date, you will find a place like my school, I still have to pay tax. And I have more than 100 children who are learning there for free. You know, you will find even at the hospital, I still have to pay the taxes that they want. But again, I'm taking care of other people who cannot even afford to go to the hospital. You know, so I'm just thinking that we and the government, but we need to find a way. The government should find a way of dealing with this kind of issues. And let me tell the people, or I mean our officials, our government officials, people are not happy down there. People are crying. It's only that they cannot cry loud for the government to listen to them. If you look yesterday about the Mandamano, everybody want to go. Everybody's crying. It's not about the election. It's about the problem and the suffering that people are undergoing. And we have to stretch this for the president to understand. People are not feeling good at all.
Now, you mentioned earlier on that the little that you have together with your international partners, and the situation in Kenya is global in terms of how the high cost of living and the high cost of fuel and everything. How are the revenue streams now? Because they are also having a cash crunch as well, or they have a better, they are helping you despite the fact that they are also undergoing the same challenges as we are experiencing in the country?
I lost many of my supporters back in the States. And I have a bunch of emails that they sent to me, Newton, we are sorry we cannot help. because of the situation here. But again, I still get some few people say, even if it is difficult, I still have to stand with this, my brother. The same way, it is difficult on my side, but I still have to stand with our sisters and our daughters and our fathers and brothers who are in the same situation. But the life, it is not within only this country. It is all over the world. But at least I am still getting something small to support. Yes.
And because of the interest of time, we are looking at the social protection, and in the country, yesterday we had a lot of big words, which we are hoping that the government will honor them and actually actualize all that. What would be your rallying call?
First, I will request the government to do some few engagement, like Kazi kwa Vijana, if they can bring that back, so the Vijana will have something to do every day, not going to the street. Number two, if the government could stand with the elderly the way President said. Number three, if the government can actually bring back the subsidy. All this mess is because the subsidy was removed. So we are not getting anything. My last request to the government, because of time, please, we are requesting government to reduce the taxes, the electricity bill, and the fuel. Because many companies are going to close, and many Kenyans are going to be jobless. No company will make money when the taxes are high. No company will make money when the fuel cost is high, and no any company will make money or profit when the electricity bill is high. Which means the best they're going to do, they're going to say, I'm going back to my country, because most of our directors here are foreigners. They are helping. They are investors. Most of them will go back and they will close. Even right now, as I speak, in my office, I have application every day for those who are looking for job. If you ask somebody, why are you looking for job? They are telling me, my boss said he's not receiving money, so you don't need to retain me. So if we way on all these additional things that government has actually put in place, we are going to lose more people who are supporting us in terms of industries, and our people are going to suffer. And we are going to welcome theft. Because when the youths are not doing anything, the best they can do is just to start stealing. And we are going to be at danger in a way that you cannot reach in your house with whatever little that you have. You know, so
yeah, and you mentioned earlier when you mentioned that you're also flying overseas to look for more partners.
Yes.
As we wind up, kindly touch on that.
Yes, I've lost most of them and the country, and they fear what is happening in my country. When they see all these riots and all noises all the time, they run away. They say we cannot keep on supporting a country whereby what they can do is just making noise and and the corruption and everything. So I lost some, and I'm going back today to the US. I'll fly there today to the US to look in any way that I can bring up new people who will understand the situation that we are into now. Because if I lose all of them, even me, I'm a person, I will say, okay, I cannot feed 100 children, I cannot do this, I cannot pay salaries, then I have to quit the job.
All right. Yeah. Thank you so much, Newton Ogada, and apologies for interjection, because we are now crossing over to Diani, where our reporter O'Brien Kimani is currently on standby with the Trade and Industry and Investment CS Moses Kuria in regard to the Connected Summit. All right. As we wait for that, I interjected your point. Maybe you can finish up on it as we wait for that signal.
Yes. I'm just saying, like, we, even us, those who are dealing with the widows, orphans, who are doing social services in the community, we will run away because we cannot carry the burden. The burden is too loud. It is too big. And we cannot reach each and every person. So we need to change. The government should do something better to improve all the sectors. Even if it will take us a year, we can slow down a little bit. And even the talks of our officials, they should look as officials of this country. They cannot just talk the way they want to talk.
And there are some Kenyans who also help you out, right?
Yes, few.
Few.
Like maybe 1 or 2 people.
Maybe you can rally Kenyans to do something, because you're not the only one who is complaining that indeed things are tight and the government is doing a little bit little on what it should be doing, protecting our kids, the elderly, the vulnerable, and the people with disabilities as well.
I will request or ask anybody who is willing to help, even if you don't help through Newton, you can reach a widow or an orphan who is not going to school, and please try to take them to school. I remember recently I saw here that many students did not report to school due to the school fee and what have you. I'm requesting for anybody, if you see somebody is not going to school, maybe that schooling will help the family. Please just stretch your hands and help that person to take that child to school. You will never lose anyway. You will only gain because you are building your country and you are building the future of the child that you take to school. So anybody who is willing to support us, just support us. But if you can support your neighbor, don't rush to support me. Start with your neighbor. Find if there's somebody next to you who is feeling bad. Start from there. Then is when you will say, I've supported this person, now I can support Newton to carry on what he's doing every day.
Thank you so much, Newton Ogada from God Will Provide. He's a philanthropist and also the director of God Will Provide. They are looking at how we can re-engineer social protection programs. Now we're crossing over to Diani, where O'Brien Kimani is currently on standby with Trade CS Moses Kuria.
Well, thank you very much, Ben Troy, Joy, back there in Broadcasting House. And of course, we continue with our unrivaled coverage of the Connected Summit 2023. Joining me on the set here is the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industry. He has just discussed the issue of business, innovation, as well as the nexus when it comes to digital enterprise, business and innovation. And of course, this is a subject that we want to discuss here, how we can use our ICT platforms, our ICT infrastructure to advance commerce as well as business. Thank you very much, Waziri, for joining us. And of course, next to him is the PS in the State Department for ICT and the digital economy. I want first of all to start with you. What is the nexus between ICT, business and international trade?
Well, I think Kenya is now positioning ICT as one of our major exports. The way we export coffee, tea and flowers, we have the government identified the ICT and digital transformation as one of the key drivers for business. So first of all, it's a product for us. It's an exportable product. It's one of the drivers for our economy. It's what we are calling our golden oil. Equivalent of golden oil for other countries. So that's number one. The second thing is, of course, the tech leadership of the tech industry. Very ambitious goal of digitizing within the next 6 months on the e-government platform. And I think especially within the African region, that is unprecedented. I would say even in other sides of the world. And that is in matters business and trade. First of all, ICT is one of the sectors that is attracting the highest level of interest from international investors. I cannot spend a day without meeting investors who are interested in investing in tech. And the second thing is that it is a platform that is going to help us in accelerating our trade and especially our export. We have got our own initiative as government, especially centered around digital trade and e-commerce. The government is launching our own version of e-commerce, the commodity exchange and the warehouse receipt system. We hope to do it as part of Madaraka Revolution, so that we using digital technology, we can be able to spur trade, to create more transparency, more visibility for our product, information sharing between regions, this region and that region. And as a matter of fact, our e-commerce Comet is going to be accessible to people out there, who want to import products from Kenya. So that is going to also help us in terms of achieving what we call inclusive growth, ensuring that even somebody from my village who does not have a passport, can be able to export products to the US, for example, without even needing to travel out of the country. Those are the wonders of technology.
And one of the challenges has been what we call information asymmetry, or whereby information is scattered in so many places. And there was a project by the government sometimes back to launch what was then dubbed as the one-stop shop for investment. And the beauty of it is that this question is coming at a time when the president is leading a delegation to Rwanda, which is highlighted as a model in Africa when it comes to business consolidation. How can we then use ICT to deploy our one-stop shop?
I think this is a very important question, because we are now coming up with a system known as Pasha, which is going to be our digital one-stop shop for all investors, for exporters, for traders, for manufacturers, so that we can be able to know where they are. They can be able to report back on the issues that are inhibiting them in terms of business. So all this we are doing so that we can be able to improve our business environment. And I think that people talk about what Rwanda is doing, but I think give us time, give us just the next 6 months, and we are actually going to leapfrog way ahead of Rwanda in terms of our business environment and our one-stop center.
PS, what is the correlation between your ministry, the Ministry of ICT, and the digital economy and trade? Where do the two of you merge?
First, building the digital ecosystem, we have many enterprises, both international and Kenyan enterprises. So these are enterprises of great interest to the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment. So that component is an area we are looking forward to collaborate with the Ministry of Trade to see how we can support the Kenyan enterprises and also even the multinationals to ensure that the agenda that we have as a government can be delivered largely by the private sector. Secondly, we are talking, and CS has talked about the digital products, and that is a very interesting and potential area for our country. How can we export more services? How can we export new products? We have the creative sector, we have data, digital products that will create value to our country. This is an area we have not exploited. We have also the third area of talent, which we think we need to position as also a product and export services by our professionals across the world. The business process outsourcing centers can be located here in Kenya, IT-enabled services. We can also attract investment in terms of call centers. So there is a huge support and collaboration area between Ministry of ICT and Digital Economy and also the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment.
And we've been talking about digitizing government services, and the target is about 5,000 by June this year. How many government services that relate to trade and commerce are going to be digitized? Do we have the numbers?
We have several services. Overall, as government, we have already identified over 5,000 services that need to be digitized. As of now, over 4,300 are already digitized fully or partially, and we are committed by end of June to have digitized all the 5,000. But there is still great work to be done on the back end to build the core systems for government digitization agenda, and we'll be working with the Ministry of Trade to see that those are addressed and the enterprises we have can play a significant role.
When it comes to research, the Kenya Industrial Research Development Institute is domiciled within your ministry, and is a critical cog in developing research and, of course, helping in the incubation of small enterprises. How is it being fashioned to ensure that it plays a significant role in Kenya's digitalization and digitization process? Bwana Waziri.
Of course, the first thing is that innovation cannot be owned by government. Innovation belongs to people out there, especially young people. And what we are doing, our role is actually trying to support young people in this journey of innovation. We have actually asked, and I said it in my speech today, the Kenya Industrial Property Institute to go to all our universities, all our schools, all our colleges, identifying innovations and actually giving them patents and copyrights, right there from that level. But more important is, so what next after identifying these innovations? And that's why one of the state corporations within my ministry, the Kenya Development Corporation, is setting up a tech fund, a tech startup fund, a tech financing fund, a tech innovation fund, to be able to support businesses, both mature businesses and startups, in accessing debt capital, in accessing equity capital, and even providing grants for the kind of development that we are finding out there. And in doing so, by the way, we are not doing it alone. We are putting up a very big coalition of development partners who want to use our platform to be able to support businesses.
You see, when you look at the foreign direct investment into Kenya, we have always averaged 60-65 billion shillings every year. How do we plan to tap ICT to grow this number going forward?
We're having, of course, our Silicon Savannah initiative. Later this month, we are going off to the US on a roadshow to attract investors, most of them on tech. We have got quite a number of investors we are going to meet in the US, and we are going to do this across many countries. Expect to see an influx of investments in tech, because most of these people, they want to come here, one, because of digital talent that exists in this country, and two, they want to come here because they can be able to actually use Kenya as a hub to develop products for their own markets, and that's a discussion I've been having with several countries.
What appears, this event, the Connected Summit, has become a major platform for players within the ICT industry, not only here in Kenya, in Africa, but beyond, to converge and deliberate on issues facing this industry. Is this a platform? How can we then create more platforms like these in various sectors, be it in investment, be it in industrialization, be it in business? What lessons can we draw from this?
First, this platform on its 12th edition, the Connected Summit, has really played a big role in the ICT sector. It's a model, and we think before even thinking of playing other roles in other forums, we need to grow it. We needed to make it more regional. We needed to make it an African summit. And within the next 5 years, we should be actually talking of this as a global event. And that's one of the other issues we are discussing with the Ministry of Industry and Trade, to see how can we grow this event to be one event annually that the whole world knows. You can go to Kenya in such an event, and this is opportunities you'll be able to access. And we are looking at growing what we call the knowledge economy. And I think knowledge economy is what will transform our country. And Ministry of Trade actually have KIPI, which issues of intellectual property. That is one core measure of knowledge economy. The other one is the growth of our startups, which also with the Kenya Development Corporation can actually address those two important issues, intellectual property and de-risking investment in our startups. So we think that plays a key role. So we want to grow this, but we will also work closely with the other programs under the Ministry of Industry and Trade and under other ministries.
What I see is, before I conclude this engagement, tell us this, how do you plan to make Kenya an exciting, a desirable, an attractive business and investment destination?
First of all, we're looking at the issue of the business environment, the policies. You heard the President last week announce very major policy shift that for purposes of ensuring that we treat businesses right, the issue of tax refunds, the issue of a policy shift from zero rating to tax exemption, so that we can be able to stop this backlog in terms of tax refunds, the issue of removing the restriction on ownership for ICT companies, the issue of data mobility for ICT within Kenya and across across the region. So on the policy level, we are doing a lot. But second thing for me is on the practice, away from the policy, ensuring that we treat every investor as a customer and changing the mindset so that it is not the investor who needs Kenya, it is Kenya who needs the investor. So that mindset change is something that I'm trying to propagate across government.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Waziri and Bwana PS, for joining us here on KBC Channel 1, and of course to enumerate some of the measures that we are putting in place to ensure that we drive the agenda of Kenya forward. Asante sana. Well, we continue our interactions here at the Connected Summit 2023. I was just talking to the Minister or Cabinet Secretary in charge of the Ministry of International Trade and Investment, Moses Kuria here, and of course the PS in charge of ICT and the digital economy, helping us understand the nexus between ICT and trade. Well, my name is O'Brien Kimani. Back to you, Ben Troy, in Broadcasting House. We continue to engage further.
Thank you, Brian Kimani, live from Diani. There, an interesting and candid conversation with the with the current CS of the Ministry of Trade and Investment, that is Moses Kuria, and also the PS of ICT. There, how the government intervention in terms of how things are in the digital space. Lots of opportunities as well. We'll cover that in a more comprehensive report in our subsequent bulletin, as we have done since the Connected Summit began in Diani on 2nd of April. On this second hour, we are looking at the state of the nation and mostly on the state of politics. Of course, after the truce between President William Ruto and the Right Honorable former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, a lot of emerging issues have emerged, and especially yesterday. Yesterday, the President did confirm and underscore that there is not going to be a handshake. And the good thing is that the common denominator, as well as Azimio coalition leader Raila Odinga, also said there is not going to be a handshake. But what we are fighting for is that more or less everything that we want done, or our demands, should also encompass or should also be broadened to incorporate other stakeholders. Because after the announcement on Sunday, we talked about partisan parliamentary select committee, or an ad hoc committee for that matter. But he said that this should be inclusive. Well, that resonates a lot with Kenyans, talking about the high cost of living, fuel, and that. That is a discussion that we'll be having here. And joining me on set are two doctors. Beginning with my immediate left, we have Dr. Gideon Muliongi, who is the MP Mwingi Central. Karibu sana mheshimiwa.
Asante sana, shukran.
Just next to him is Dr. Churchill Saoke. Dr. Churchill Saoke is a leadership and governance analyst, and also he is a lecturer at the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. Karibu sana, Doc.
Asante, thank you.
It's been a while.
Thank you.
First things first, Mheshimiwa, for avoidance of doubt, you are in the Azimio coalition, being a Wiper MP.
Yes.
And we have seen some of the coalition MPs are not quite in Azimio. I'm talking about looking at what happened in terms of maandamanos and the sentiments these leaders are always on media talking about. You are in Azimio, and you support everything that Azimio is talking about?
Nam, I'm 100% Azimio. Elected under Wiper ticket, which is a coalition partner.
Yes.
In Azimio One Kenya Alliance. And therefore I support the manifesto, the policies, and the agenda of Azimio 100%.
Yesterday, the Azimio leader, Raila Odinga, said that, yes, indeed, you talked about a parliamentary caucus that will discuss the issues that had made Azimio go to the streets. Yesterday, UDA talked about more or less like you are changing the goalpost, talking about encompassing now, bringing in more stakeholders. I would like you to touch on that.
You know, from the beginning, we raised issues of concern, which were affecting Kenyans. And they were based on 3 pillars. And the first pillar was the high cost of living, which was affecting everybody.
Yes.
Both Kenya Kwanza, Azimio, everybody in Kenya. And the other one was the constitution of the IEBC. Because Kenya Kwanza had moved very fast to constitute IEBC on their own. Head handing, and that is like appointing a referee on your own who is going to oversee the game. And therefore the other issue was, of course, disputed election results, whereby 3 commissioners agreed, 4 commissioners disagreed, went to court agreed with the 3 commissioners, and in democracy, the majority should win. And we also got inside information that Azimio is the one which won. And those are the issues which we raised. And because Kenya Kwanza refused to listen and discuss, then we decided to go to the streets. Because if your father or your mother cannot listen to you, you are bound to make noise so that you can be listened to. And we then decided to make noise so that we can be heard. And of course, there was very hardline stand, just thumping, arrogance. Leaders was allied to Kenya Kwanza were operating in utopia, ivory tower, just thumping, very aloof. And these are the people who messed up the president. And therefore, finally, of course, when we went to the streets, there was a lot of resistance from the government, supported by the police. A lot of people were injured in the demonstrations, innocent citizens, Kenyans, because when you go to the streets, there are people who are even Kenya Kwanza, who even come out to see Baba. They just come out to see what is happening. Allied to even Kenya Kwanza. Not all demonstrators in the streets are Azimio.
All right. We're going to also look at how practical are some of the issues that Azimio have raised.
I was now heading to answer your question because I've not even... I was doing a preamble to get to your question. And therefore, a lot of people were affected and injured, others were maimed, some were killed in the demonstrations. That was not the agenda of Azimio. Azimio was just to push for those 3 agendas, not to get Kenyans killed, murdered in daylight by the police. And therefore, finally, the president, whom we do not recognize from the Azimio side, saw some sense, and therefore agreed for some talks. Yeah, and I'm sure those arrogant guys were ashamed. Those kitchen guys. They were ashamed when the president now finally said, "No, I'm ready for talks, but through a structured system." Of course, there can't be talks which are not structured. All talks must have to be structured and must abide by the law. And if they are not within the law can be changed to suit the circumstances at the time. And therefore, the president then said is ready for a bipartisan talk, but steered through Parliament and gave us his terms. And Azimio, we also gave our terms of what we think. And there is nothing much we changed because the president said these talks will be done through Parliament. Through Parliament, within the law. And we said, yes, it will be done through Parliament, and Parliament is members of Parliament. There will be some members of Parliament who will be nominated to sit in those talks. And we also said, so that we are fair, we also need some international observers, you know, like Kofi Annan, you know, that category to come and, you know, be part of that and parcel of those talks. And once the talks are concluded, because talks cannot be done in the chamber, talks have to be done somewhere, and then the proposals then are brought to Parliament. That's all what Azimio has said.
Okay.
Yeah, there's nothing that has changed.
And it's a good thing that you've mentioned that the broadening of the engagement in terms of who are, and the issues that we have, and the people who are also, including the clergy. I would like you, Doc, to also chip in that. When they announced the ceasefire, the Wanjiku was never mentioned. And even when Parliament was mentioned, a lot of Kenyans cried foul that indeed the two leaders have spoken, but nobody has mentioned that Wanjiku should be in the talks. But now yesterday, Azimio, as UDA are talking about, they are shifting goalposts. But this is something that could be welcomed by Kenyans, that they also need to encompass other stakeholders other than politicians alone.
Well, you see, when you look at any negotiations, the success of any negotiation is dependent on the composition of individuals who is acceptable to both parties in that dispute. And, you know, in as much as the Wanjiku might be crying foul about the representation, it's also important to be practical. That, I mean, everything is that is going to be discussed there by whoever. The Wanjiku cannot be, we cannot say that they'll be out of the picture. Everything will be discussed, will be things that pertains to them. And I think the whole question about broadening stakeholders so that you have a bigger, you have more people within the negotiation table, work best for both parties in terms of ensuring that there is no one person or there is no one party in the conflict or in the negotiation that has got an upper hand. Like, you know, for example, you might say that if we decide that we draw the membership entirely from Parliament, then you might actually see that there is a specific side that will have an upper hand in the negotiation, and that will render maybe the dispute escalating more, because the other party will feel that the other side or one side has got as an upper hand. So this broadening of the stakeholders within any negotiation space helps to level the discussion and have the discussion much more, you know, each party being acceptable with the individuals, and also the whole concept of neutrality. All right, the whole concept of neutrality is very important. You know, if there is because if this whole thing has to become successful, then there has to be honesty and goodwill from the key political players, the president and the former president. And if they, in the assumption that they have got goodwill and they want honest deliberation, then there is need to have maybe a neutral party taking control to bring the temperatures down of the people who are going to be engaged there, because remember that each party is going to bring the hardliners, and these hardliners will always want to push their agendas through. So you need, you cannot have hardliners being mediated with a hardliner. There has to be somebody who will come, is able to analyze the emotional intelligence of the both parties and persuade both parties, and you know, within the negotiation table and outside of the negotiation table, so that a deal can emerge out of that negotiation. If that is not set now, and you know, it is important that both parties speak about it now, so that, because you see, this is the time for agenda setting. If if you don't raise those issues now, then it's not going to be part of the table. So it is very normal with any negotiation process that in the initial stages there will be this kind of divisions emerging, each party wanting this, another party wanting that. So it is the role of that key negotiator who we are yet to see who is going to be that person who will emerge and help now bring all these diverse extreme positions of the both parties so that we can have a common ground that, you know what, this is the agenda, these are the priorities, these are the timelines, and this is the mode that we are going to use to handle this negotiation so that we get a deal. And that's how...
And that's why maybe that's why they talked about they would like more or less like an Annan deal that was realized in 2008. But still on the same, they have talked about subsidies to cushion the Kenyans, just like the last regime did some few months to the election. Do you think, even the World Bank and IMF have talked about they are not sustainable? I would like you to dig in that, and then we hear what Mheshimiwa has to say regarding that.
It's important as they discuss these issues of the cost of living to consider really what is in the best interest of the people. Because you see, in as much as issues around subsidies might not be sustainable, but in the time that we are, they could be the best thing to deal with. Because, I mean, remember that when the cost of living is high, the government is also hurting its image. All right? So there are certain hard decisions that any government must make and disregard any opinion of international partners. Because I can assure you, and I can say this, that, you know, there are international organizations that will never want subsidies in any country. We have seen it before, and around the world, they'll never want subsidies. So it is upon the representatives of the people to ask themselves, in as much as it is not sustainable, is it the best interest for the people as is now?
Mheshimiwa,
Yes, sir.
they've talked about subsidies, and the government and also the president, when he took over the reins of power in September, said that we have to do away with the subsidies. They are hurting the nation. And your leader has talked about the subsidies coming back. What do you think? We are a recovering economy.
You know, Mr. Jue, when you are a leader, you must have a listening ear. You should be able to listen to the people you lead. You cannot be up there in the ivory tower enjoying yourself in State House, and the people you are leading are crying. Even in your house, when your children, your family have no food, you can't let them sleep hungry. You must find a solution, immediate solution, to cushion that particular day as you look forward. Now, when the cost of living started rising just before elections, and Kenyans made noise, the then President Uhuru Kenyatta listened and heard their cries and quickly moved to cushion the economy through subsidies. And it never took him a week. Cost of unga came down. Yeah. When President Ruto took over, he quickly removed the subsidy against his policies of taking care of the hustlers. Quickly removed the subsidies, and the cost of unga went up from 100 shillings to 250. 220, it varies from various areas. So it shot up. And that was against his manifesto. And therefore, personally, even if subsidies are not sustainable, we have also to listen to the economists, the professionals. If subsidies are not professional, there must be a stopgap measure, short-term solution. As you look at the long term, because according to President Ruto, we want a sustainable solution. People are planting maize now. We are waiting for the maize to grow so that we can harvest. As you do that, what measures are you taking in the short run. There must be that short-run solution. And the short-run solution we are talking about, before you build that foundation of sustainable solutions, agriculture, and all that, you must now build that. You must have a short-term solution. And the short-term solution is subsidy. So we are saying return the subsidies now as a short-term solution to cushion Kenyans at the moment. When you build your foundation and you are now growing up, then remove the subsidies.
And I'm quite sure that resonates quite well with a lot of Kenyans. And there are two sides of this coin. On one side, the former Premier Raila Odinga talks about the subsidies should be back, adds that these talks should be inclusive. But on the other side, Kenyans were quick to note that on Sunday, when he was announcing the truce that no mandamandos for now, he never mentioned anything that touches on Wanjiku. Maybe it's a turnaround, a quick turnaround. Yesterday he said the subsidies, the cost of living and the fuel do not need the bipartisan parliamentary select committee or ad hoc committee, but he said these are things that the president can just do.
Let me tell you something. The three demands, irreducible minimums, which Azimio are talking about, the cost of living, IBC, and opening the server. Okay, those are the three pillars, although we have added another one. Yeah, we have added another one.
You're shifting goalposts.
There is no shifting goalpost. You know, as you evolve, things change.
Okay.
Because as we make these demands, the other side is busy buying as mere leaders with the money. You know, they approach Muliungi, they give him a lot of money, anaona hapana, wacha nichukue hii pesa, ninyamaze. Okay? We are saying, adding another one, that if you are elected under Azimio umbrella, and you go to parliament, and you change to Kenya Kwanza, you must go back to the electorate. Those people who send you to parliament to elect you again in Kenya Kwanza. Okay? So that we caution political prostitution in parliament. Okay? That will come out in the talks. It will be there. Okay? So those are pillars, those are headlines. Even Ruto, when he was issuing his statement, he never talked about high cost of living. He ignored it. So Baba was responding to Ruto, yeah, in his statement as well. So when the talks start, under those headlines, those headings, many issues will be raised and agreed upon. So there is nothing that we have ignored. We understand what we are talking about, what we are looking at, and high cost of living is priority number one.
All right, and we'll get back to that server, which has quite cost us in the country. Doc, looking at calls by a section of the Kenyans and part of the clergy as well, they say that these Thanksgiving services should be shelved. And they say that for the cohesion of the nation, we have seen what is coming out of these Thanksgiving ceremonies or masses. We have seen politicians pull hatred. We have seen them politic at the pulpit, and it's not quite helping the situation in the country. I would like you to respond to that.
Ben, I find that quite oxymoronic, because who invites them in the pulpit?
The clergy.
So why don't they have the power to just have them be there as congregants? So one of the ways of, one of the ways that of conditions that they can decide is to say that if we are organizing a Thanksgiving service, then it is a Thanksgiving service and there is no political talk. Of course, it's a very difficult thing, and maybe it could have been one of the conditions that could have been brought here as part of the ceasefire, because in some of those talks, in some of those Thanksgiving services, there's been a lot of there's been a lot of political venom that is coming out of it, most of which can actually accelerate the current disputes. And the president the president, in as much as the president is able to tone down some of his loyalties, it's equally important that the clergy also help in doing so. The only challenge is that I find the Thanksgiving prayer meetings are more driven by the political players who are organizing those. So even if they were to be stopped, maybe they advise the president to stop those prayer meetings. That's one. And also two, the politicians who are going into the churches, maybe they should not be given platforms to speak politics, like I saw in one of the churches recently. So it's about the church taking that responsibility of saying that, you know what, the church is for winning souls, for preaching to the heartbroken, and for healing the nation, and not for breaking the nation. And if we want a Thanksgiving, somebody should just come out and become a voice of reason to the leadership of even Kenya Kwanza, and, you know, tell them that, you know what, if we are organizing these prayer meetings, let's have them be meetings that heal the country. And any messages that is coming out of these meetings should be messages that are not necessarily targeting our political opponents, but are meant to bring the nation together. In fact, that would actually be a very good platform that they could exemplify themselves and bring out the statesmanship out of them.
And Mheshimiwa, I'm quite sure you have a word on that in terms of the Thanksgiving ceremonies that we have seen. But my earlier question on the server, the Azimio Brigade has talked about the server for a number of weeks now. Something that did not come up during the election petition at the Supreme Court, A. B, the president talking about we need the servers opened. IEBC, I'm quite sure, is the only electoral body that is mandated with the electoral matters in the country. So when your brigade talks about opening the server, I think that is something that should be directed to IEBC. And questions is, why did this not come up during the election petition? And why now? Why the server now? It should have been opened earlier on.
You know, even in 2017, there was a demand to open the server. Court directed IEBC to open the server. They did not open. In our court petition in 2022, we also demanded the server to be opened. It was not opened. And since the Supreme Court ruled the way they ruled, and there is no other place you can go, it is final, then we decided to go back to the Constitution. Constitution belongs to the people. The Kenyans are the makers of the Constitution. The sovereign power belongs to the people. We went to the public court. The public court is the people of Kenya. And now the people of Kenya are now speaking through the demonstrations and then demanding bipartisan talk, which is outside court. It is beyond. It is now beyond court. And you know, once this bipartisan court, if this bipartisan talks, if they agree, let's go and open the server, court will be bypassed. The court, the Supreme Court will be bypassed. This is beyond them. Yeah. So we are now saying, because we discovered that Raila is the one who won with 8.1 million, and the Ruto got 5.9 million.
But you guys are not proving it.
It will be proven when we open the server. That's why we are saying, open the server, where the results were being transmitted. They are there. Yeah. And we have done that analysis.
So in short, you're accusing IEBC of colluding.
Yes, we are accusing
to ensure that your leader, your leader, was denied the victory.
We are not. Yeah, they denied Azimio leader victory. We are not even accusing them. They even accused themselves.
How is that?
4 of them. 4 of them, commissioners. You know,
they should have been the first ones to say
they even accused themselves, because 4. refused to announce the results. They say these are not the actual results. 3 agreed with the Chembukati.
I totally concur, because
Yes.
that is the drama that unfolded.
That is a drama.
But this
Wonder why?
four,
Ask
they
yourself-
never
ask
raised
yourself why-
anything about opening the server. They should have said, we do not want this result. Let's open the server.
That time there was nothing like opening the server. The results were on the table. The forms were there. Yes. They had the physical forms there.
Don't you think this could alter maybe the politics of the day, and also alter a lot of things in the country, Mheshimiwa?
Of course, that is what we are looking at. We are looking at the legitimacy of President Ruto as the president of Kenya. Because if he was announced the winner by mistake, then that has to be reversed. There must be a political solution to that problem. And you can even see, even the way the results were announced, the fake results which were announced, 6.9 against 7.1. Kenya is 50-50. It's divided into 2. Half of the Kenyans belong to Azimio. Then a half of the other Kenyans belong to Kenya Kwanza. If I was the president today, I would work towards uniting those 2. The side which never supported me, bring them to.
That himself, he has said that he is going to unite Kenyans.
How is it united when venom is coming from Ngachangwa, the deputy president, and this other guy, majority leader? How is he uniting when he's calling Baba Kitendawili, abusing them in public rallies? Is that uniting? Is that what you call uniting?
But also the demonstrations are not uniting Kenyans as well.
That is a fallback position because of the abusing language venom that is coming from the mouth of the leaders allied to Kenya Kwanza. It's a reaction that you cannot mishandle, even if you purportedly won the elections. We are human beings. We demand respect. You can't be there calling us kitendawili. Mutu ya kitendawili, mutu ya maandamano. There must be respect.
Dr. Churchill, I would like you to weigh in on that issue about the server being opened. Of course, a lot of Kenyans have raised issues with that, and even a good question is why this thing did not come up earlier on. And what if there is that server and we go and open and we find quite different from what even Azimio is saying and what Kenya Kwanza is saying? Because it's also a possibility, because since then we've never been told where that server is, who are manning that server. So in as much as we would want to go the server way, it could change a lot of dynamics in the country.
But I want us to look at it this way. You know, when you look at the history of the growth of democracies and nations, the whole question of certain unprecedented events that happened changed the course of those countries and how those countries do their businesses of election or any other thing. And it's important maybe for us to think about
kindly hold the thought. We need to go back to Diani, where we had earlier on, we had the Cabinet Secretary for the Ministry of Trade and Investment. O'Brien is also lining up some also an additional interview in regards to the same, reminding you that the summit started on the 2nd of April to the 5th, talking about the connected conference and the steps and everything that the government is striving to ensure that Kenya is more digital, including additional of optic fiber cable and others. O'Brien?
Well, many thanks indeed, Ben Troy Joy. We continue to talk to ICT players, both at the micro and the macro level, the people who are moving the ICT industry in this country. And joining me now is the CEO of Robisearch. This is Mr. Robert Manyara. He's going to help us understand what is the role of small ICT companies in the whole ICT master plan here in Kenya. Thank you very much indeed, Robert, for joining us. First of all, help us understand, where is Robisearch in the ICT value chain?
Thank you so much. I'm Robert Manyala. I work with a company called Robi Search Limited, which deals with software development and digital marketing. So the role of ICT in our current economy is that ICT is able to do so much. Currently, what is happening is that most people are going digital. We are making people to become digitally fit. Like, for example, this event which has been going on here in Mombasa, there are so many people who have discussed so many great ideas on how people can become digitally fit. For example, how maybe the people who are having good products from wherever they are, they can be able to post them online. We have had government telling people that there's now free internet in various places where Mama Mboga can be able to take picture and post on their WhatsApp status. They can post on Facebook and be able to get customer. In the same way, Robi Search Limited ensure that every last Friday of the month, anybody who has a product, we do it for free. That is the day that we work with so many influencers, over 300 and above, just to ensure we post it online. When we post it online, what happens is that there's somebody who's going to see what you are selling. Maybe you are selling avocado in Mombasa, you are selling maybe computer in Nairobi. We are able to help you reach many people from wherever you are. Somebody will call you and somebody will buy. What do we do with that? In such a regard, we make sure we create job, because when this person gets more customer, he will be able to employ many people. In such a regard, we reduce what is called a job problem in Kenya. So basically, that is some of the few things that Robi Search does. Apart from that one, there's something called office automation. Most people make losses. And the reason why they make losses is because they do things manually. So sometimes you have been making a lot of sales, but you cannot differentiate between the profit and the revenue. So when somebody goes digital, when somebody have like a bookkeeping software, two things you can be able to achieve. You'll be able to see what was my stock, what have I used, and how much am I getting. So Robi Search Limited is helping people to also come up with a solution that make them really become digitally fit, and they can be able to monitor everything from wherever they are.
There's something that you have just talked, and I know the government is in the process of rolling out 25 free Wi-Fi public hotspots. But the research that has been done is that almost 80% of people using a free public Wi-Fi, they're doing it to download movies, to play games, and to watch soap operas. What is your role as ICT companies and research companies to ensure that you help people to use these services for the betterment of their service, of their businesses?
So what we do is, one, we create what is called Twitter free space. That is last Friday of the month. This is where we train the world, or maybe anybody elsewhere, how, including students, how they can be able to use those free Wi-Fi to make money. For example, there are several companies currently, they can allow you to work from wherever you are. Only what you need is that free Wi-Fi. You can be able to post for them online. You can be able to talk about whatever they do, including Robi Search allow you to do that. At the end of the day, you get something every time you make a sale. So that's one thing we do. So we train them every last Friday of the month also on how they can be able to use technology. We have so many people who watch our status on daily basis. We also recommend that people can also use their status in the best way possible. For example, today you are selling what we call nyanya ama tomato. You can be able to post them online. People can be able to really see that today you are selling this, instead of using your status for a wrong thing. Also, we have also what is called Facebook, Twitter, and any other social media platform. We also recommend that once in a while, of course the social media plays, but once in a while, maybe you are a student there back at home, or you are somebody who is saying there's no job, you can be able to approach many companies, including Robi Search Limited, and tell them, what can I do with the numbers that you have? Because with the numbers, you can be able to create job for yourself. Very well. So we train them, and we ensure that at the end of the day, they have the knowledge on how they can be able to utilize their social media very well, because 90% are online.
Very well. In 30 seconds before I let you go, I want to hear from you. For the startups that are watching you, for the small businesses, SMEs, mama bogas, and all that, what is your advice to them to drive their businesses using ICT platforms?
My main advice is that 90% of your fear don't happen. Robi Search Limited is where we are simply because we took what is called risk, and even a risk of going digital, and even investing it in a big way. So my advice to many people, and even young businesses that are starting up, the startup and all SMEs that we have in Kenya, that kindly try to embrace technology. Of course, some might fear because of maybe because of the price and all that, but I believe there are so many companies, including Research, where we can negotiate and you can even pay pole to get a solution instead of doing things manual. Because when you do this, company grow. When company grow, you have more employees that may be going to depend on you as a company. So I would also want to introduce this to other companies that are still going manual, that let's embrace technology. Through technology, there's efficiency. Through technology, we reduce expenses and increase what is called accountability. With accountability, people are able to produce much. So as Research also, we are willing for anybody who wants to come to us, we can train you, we can guide you to ensure at the end of the day we create more job through technology, through going digital, and we make you digitally fit.
Thank you very much indeed, Robert, for joining us here, and of course for sharing with us your insights and your wisdom. And of course, you see, the clarion call from Robert is that the future is ICT. If you're a business person, regardless of your status, whether small, medium or big, and you don't have your presence in the digital space, then you're not in business. From Connected Summit 2023, my name is O'Brien Kimani. Back to you in Broadcasting House.
Thank you, and let me add that he is in Diani for the last 3-4 days that the summit has been there, and they are engaging one of the stakeholders in that summit, talking about how digital space is changing everything, including the life for Mama Mboga. And because of the interest of time, allow me now to shift back our focus to the topic of discussion, where we are talking about peace, cohesion and bipartisan politics, looking at how the state of politics are in the country. I have Dr. Gideon Muliongi of Mwingi Central, and also we have Dr. Churchill Saoke, governance expert and also a lecturer at JQU Art. Now, earlier on you had touched something on the issue of server, because if you're talking about the server, you can find anything, and maybe we are not quite sure, and I'm not accusing them, maybe somebody has tampered with something in the short period that after election, because the issue of the server has come up now. And how can it change the dynamics of the country if we decide to open it up and find totally different things?
Well, thanks, Ben. I was just saying something that in the history of development of countries, especially the opening of the democratic spaces, there are certain unprecedented events that have happened, some of which are extra-constitutional. And of course, you saw that even in the year 2007, that led to the new constitution of 2010 through the National Accord. And we may need to look at this more broadly and ask ourselves that, you know, the opposition in 2017 raised issues of opening of servers. In 2022, they also raised issues of opening of servers. In each of the two scenarios, they indicated that even upon request of the courts, the servers were not opened. Now, when you look at the journey and the trajectory, the path that Kenya has taken towards broadening our democratic space, we have always wanted to advance from one level to another so that elections can be free, fair, and reflect the will of the people. And that is what brought us into the technology. And now we are getting to a point where there is obscurity in the election process. And the election management sort of is, many people are not familiar with what is happening. And from what is now being said, that there could be something in the server that the people need to know, including those who have won. Because if there is a strategy that is being used to manipulate elections through technology, then nobody is not at risk. Anybody is at risk. And the question that we need to ask ourselves is, who is in charge? Who is really in charge? Assuming that it is true, and I'm going to come to what you're saying, what you asked me. Who is really in charge? And in whose interest is he driving the new leaders that are emerging out of this electoral process of the technology that is obscure? So that is something that should worry any Kenyan today and into the future. Because we could be thinking that we are a democratic, independent republic, yet in real sense we are not. Somebody somewhere is actually micromanaging us through technology. And that is very disastrous, because it means that at some point one day you can even have, you know, an extremist, terrorist extremist being a leader of this country. And then we will not be having any country anymore. So we need to look at the bigger picture and ask ourselves, is there somebody who is manipulating our elections through technology?
No.
And if it is there, in whose interest is he, she doing it? So
in as much as it has been, everybody's asking why now, it's a good thing for Kenyans, mostly because of the futures.
It is something that is good for the future of the country, because we do not know. Today it might be used to get a good leader. Tomorrow it might be used to get an extremely worst leader, and we will then cry that we wished we had acted upon this earlier.
Okay.
So me, I think from where I sit and looking at it objectively, it might be something that is good to look at, and if we find inside there are questions that are emerging, it should make us to ask further questions so that we get answers that will make our elections free, fair, and that which reflects the will of the people.
Honorable Muliongi, looking at even Mwingi Central, I've seen a question thrown in the tabloids. Why is it that Azimio MPs, they're not rallying their people back in their constituents, but more or less like want to be relevant in the national political scene? What would you say?
Rallying to do what?
Rally your people for maandamanos and demonstrations that were being there.
I don't think we had reached a level of countrywide demonstrations. When we reach that level, you'll see everybody, including from Lower Eastern, in the streets. If you recall what the leader of Azimio announced, he announced maandamano in Nairobi, in the city CBD, starting from KICC. He never announced maandamano all over the country. It's only that some people are faster. Yeah, faster than Baba himself. Yes. And therefore that time will come if talks don't bear fruits.
All right. You're also a national leader, and you're also the MP Mwingi Central. You're in power for about seven months now?
No,
since election?
Yes,
you were there, yes, but we are not talking about something that Kenya can identify with.
Yes.
Because, let's be very honest, the country hasn't moved a lot since we did the elections. Do you concur?
Yes, we are now doing the 7th month.
You are also a national leader. You are the MP for Mwingi Central.
Yes.
Something you've also done, you've been doing for the Mwingi Central MP as you also engage in the national politics.
Yes.
Yeah.
You want me to tell you what I've been doing for
at least for the 7 months?
I've sunk 10 boreholes. 10.
In the last 7 months?
In the last six months. 6 months. We are now doing the 7th. In the last 6 months, I have dunk 7 boreholes in primary schools and secondary schools.
Yeah, because I'm quite sure
I've issued bursaries to more than 20,000 students, deserving students. I've constructed more than I think 20 classrooms in schools. I've graded roads. I've done 4 drifts, concrete drifts along rivers within those 6 months. So we are working.
Despite the fact that you're in the national politics?
Yes, we are working in the opposition. Yeah, just underline that. I have done that, but I've not gone to State House to beg for anything. Yes.
What would you like to tell your colleagues in Azimio who more or less look like, for lack of a better word, a watermelon, because they are partly in Azimio, but they more or less seem to be dancing with the Kenya Kwanza. And they are your colleagues in the coalition and in parliament as well.
You know, that is what we call political prostitution. And you know, since time immemorial, that terminology does exist. And it is a decision of a person with loose morals, you know. And therefore, those are politicians with loose morals. They don't have a stand, they don't have a position. They want to get quick money, because if you go to State House, you've been given some little money and promises which may never come. Yeah, so that is not Muliongi. Yes.
Churchill, as we wind up, what is the future of Kenya in regards to the talks that we are expecting, and we are so expectant as Kenyans, to bear fruits?
I think I would say that Kenyans are hopeful and very expectant on the truce between the president and the former PM. My call and my rallying call is that let them engage in honest talk with the best interest of the country, looking at the future. Because some of these things happen to other people today, then tomorrow it will be someone else. So we need to build a nation that has got the future generation in mind.
Mheshimiwa, wrap it up. The final sentiments.
I want to say is to call to our principals, our leaders, for reasons to prevail, so that Kenyans don't suffer anymore. And the main principle in this game, the main principle, the pillar of these talks, is President Ruto. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Honorable Dr. Gideon Muliongi, who is the MP Mwingi Central, and just next to him, Dr. Churchill Saoke, who is a governance expert and also a lecturer at the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. They are putting things into perspective where we're looking at the state of the nation and the politics, looking at peace, cohesion, and bipartisan politics. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's continue this conversation on social media. My name is Ben Troy Njue. Thanks indeed for joining us.
Yes, sir.
Leipzig, the cup holders against Dortmund.
And that's a magnificent strike.
In the Bundesliga, it was Dortmund 2, Leipzig 1. The quarter-finals of the DFB Pokal.
And he's found Werner to Marco Reus.
Leipzig, Dortmund, a repeat of the 2021 final.
Ulipata safe house ya Sam. Niluka imechomeka. Is he dead?
Betu mwana hiyo? Kuna kitu hapo. Mwana hiyo baki jamaa yake ni bahati bana.
Imani hajakuwa kenda shule for 3 days sasa.
Nilipata ile lori ya juzi.
Tutatumia fake and break. 2 teams, stealth incursion, in and out in under 20 minutes.
Ukijaribu hii. Nyumbani.
Shukrani sana kwa kuzidi kutazama KBC. Hujambo popote ulipo mtazamaji wa KBC. Karibu kwenye Kurunzi Mashinani. Mimi ni Zainab Said, katika lugha ya ishara. Taarifa hizi anayekuletea ni Brian Muraru. Moja kwa moja tuanze na taarifa ambayo si nzuri zaidi, ambapo shule ya upili ya wavulana ya Butere iliyoko katika kaunti ya Kakamega